Not exactly hidden. He knocks on the inside of the hidden chamber. He's a little early, but he'd like to talk first. Make sure he gets things right and doesn't start off some insane blood feud. The Apuk seem to be really digging humanity's groove, but still. The hidden passage opens and Uthtir just stares at him. "May I come in? You're early." She states somewhat dumbly, but steps aside to allow him entrance anyways. Better an hour early than a second late, Koga notes as he steps in. Uthtir quickly closes the doorway behind and just in time as a secretary comes in and freezes at the sight of them both. She freezes. "Ah, good. A third opinion after your second opinion may help." "Excuse me?" Uthtir asks, and then out of his sleeve Koga pulls out a sword and dagger before tucking them both into his sash. With a dark blue hari, dark green nagagi, and dark brown hakama, his kimono was formal and had the colors of the dark forest while also being far more practical than it looked. His hair was combed back and held in place by tiny vines as he had traded out his usual thicker glasses for more powerful but less attention-getting specs. "What do you think? Blades? No blades?" he asks, using axiom to hide and then reveal the katana and tanto as appropriate. "Are you wearing robes?" the secretary asks in surprise. Koga stepped forward and his gaita clacked on the floor somewhat. It revealed that he's wearing extremely baggy pants that pass for robes. What? Horseback riding was considered extremely important to the nobility in my homeland, so formal robes had to accommodate it. He notes before taking a step back and sliding out of his right geta before stepping out of his left as well. The wooden sandals float up into his hand and he offers a slight smirk. "Is there some place I can place my geta during this conversation? Back home, it's considered impolite to track outside dirt into someone's home by wearing your shoes inside." "If you could, Almir Chaz," Uthtir asks. "Oh, of course. I'll just, I think you look more dashing with the blades," Almir Chaz says as she takes the geta from Koga, who nods in thanks. "I see. Thank you," Koga says graciously, and there's a huff from Uthtir as Almir Chaz leaves the room. She's not going to forget this for a very long time. Uthtir notes. She then clearly looks over Koga, and while she clearly likes what she sees, she also has a question. "I thought kimono were one long, well-decorated robe." "They can be, but a formal man's kimono comes with hakama pants, a shorter nagagi, more like a shirt than robe, and a haori overcoat. I couldn't help but notice just how formally many Apuk ladies will dress, and I don't think I should dress down. If I were to dress a little more casually, it would just be a longer nagagi and haori, or much more informal and it would just be the long nagagi." Koga explains and she nods. "What is it made out of? It looks like silk, but there's something off." "The silk comes from the cocoons of moths that live with the dark forest, wild variants of tame local silk weavers," Koga explains. "Oh, I thought for a moment that perhaps you had an eartheny tailor it. Did you make this yourself?" "Yes, I have military formals, but it doesn't seem appropriate for a get-together like this," Koga answers. "And so, you weave a professional-level formal robe in mere days from bare silk. I must admit, I can't tell if this is sorceress overachieving or human overachieving." "Split the difference?" Koga asks. "Still, I have yet to get an answer, armed or unarmed. I wasn't expected such ornamental blades, so I take back any reservations I had about you carrying weapons. It's a slight point of pride for Japan that even back in the days of the Silk Road, our katana were considered beautiful blades. The Silk Road. A pity I have so little time for this. I have some last-minute affairs that have cropped up and need attending before preparing myself for the party. I hope you don't mind, but I do need some time alone. You're rather distracting. I apologize for being so distracting. I'm afraid that my efforts to be less distracting would be more paranoia-inducing, as you would know I'm nearby but not where. Koga answers, and she lets out a much more amused huff this time. True enough. I believe a little tour of the estate is in order. No doubt Almirchas would love to show you around. Although do try not to seduce her. Things would get a little awkward if that were to happen. I will try to keep my charms at bay, he says in a mildly teasing tone. Please do. While it may be the subject of a great many tri-type per 10 romance novel, a house servant seducing someone that the nobility is rubbing shoulders with is usually nothing shy of a scandal. Let alone an alien sorcerer. Yes, I'm afraid we're in the first third of one such novel already. Try not to end up in the second act. Uthtir half pleads, half warns him, and he chuckles. I'll keep it in my pants, don't worry. That's not quite what I'm afraid of, but good to know, Uthtir says in a similar tone. She then walks towards her desk and presses a button. Milady? Almirchas asks from the other end. I still a bit of work to do before departing for tonight's celebration. Could you please keep Mr. Koga company and show him about the manor while I finish up here and prepare? Uthtir asks, and there's an outright scramble from the other side of her office door. Of course. I mean, yes, milady, I will. Almirchas exclaims before suddenly remembering herself and calming down. Thank you, I'll be in your care then, ma'am. Koga says gently, and the secretary blushes somewhat. He wants to comment. He really does. But there's very little he can say that won't lead her on further, embarrass her, or infuriate her. But staying silent also has an effect, and she takes a moment to collect herself before offering a short bow and requesting that he follow. So, how much do you know about the Tyr estate? Almirchas asks. I've studied its blueprints, and I know that it's been standing for about 200 years in its current form. And while we have the Ship of Theseus conundrum going on here, it has been in the Tyr family's hands for thousands of years. This is their ancestral claim, and from the top of its highest tower, which used to be the central building, you can see the entirety of the barony. What is the Ship of Theseus conundrum? A thought experiment. If Theseus's ship is repaired time and again, one board and rope at a time, and after some years every piece of the ship has been replaced, is it the same ship? I suppose so. Very good. Now, here is the fun part. What if all those older parts were used to build another ship? Is that also the ship of Theseus? And if it is or is not, then what is the ship that is not? Oh, that's easy. Legally, they both are, Almirchas states. I beg your pardon? Koga asks. It's a side effect of synthetic uploading. Some criminals have tried to dodge legal repercussions by switching bodies or changing their state of beings, claiming to only have been born after the crime took place and therefore it being impossible for them to be guilty. This sounds like familiar territory for you. Koga does and does not ask. He hadn't expected a static answer to his comparison to a thought experiment. I watch crime dramas in my spare time. We're in the middle of Synth Week on the Galacta Network Crime Channel, so it's been one of the major scams that synthetic peoples do, among others. I've been learning a lot about computers and the sheer danger that a lot of personal information is in the last few days, let me tell you. I can imagine a synth hacker must be a terrifying foe. So much blackmail material and so many resources from scanned and skimmed bank accounts. Koga considers. I know, there are so many cases where specialists have to be brought in because synths are just that slippery. Almirchas says eagerly. She really perked up now that he's inadvertently steered things onto a topic that she enjoys. That was a bit of a mistake. The main office with its hidden sanctum are actually fairly central in the building itself. Of course, the manor as a whole has grown many times. What used to be separate buildings in a more castle-like structure have been linked together, and conjoining buildings have been built to turn it from the small town with wall that was most castles, and into a single large building with individual parts much older than other portions. The style of ancient stone forts suddenly melding into more modern palaces, and even more modern manners is quite the thing, especially when one considers just how violent the ancient history of the Apuk is, something they haven't fully shaken. Small and poor as the Tyr barony is, it is old and storied. Many wealthier provinces and states don't have even half the history. There's a fair amount to be said for being the quiet, inoffensive neighbor that generally gets along with everyone but isn't considered a power enough to have aid requested of them. Almirchaz shows him an older art gallery with several tapestries that depict old battles, and one of them draws Koga up short. The sheer style of it is unusual. Unusual to the Apuk culture, but not to him. This almost looks Japanese, he notes as he beholds the large tapestry with numerous white flowers embroidered into it. There is a level of detail to hint at droplets of morning dew on the petals and a slight bend to everything as if a gentle breeze were swaying the entire lot. Does it? Almirchaz asks and he nods. Yes, it does. He notes as he considers the small plaque underneath it. Pristine bouquet by Zethir Tyr. O course, alien or not, a man's a man, Almirchaz whispers under her breath. Pardon? Koga asks, and she seems taken aback. You heard me? I've trained my hearing rather well. What did you mean by alien or not, a man's a man? He asks, and she does not answer. I see. Perhaps if I waited outside the Baroness's office? No doubt whatever she meant was insulting in some way, or she would be all too happy to tell him what she meant, so he has little guilt not speaking up after that. Thankfully, it's not too long a wait afterwards. The little tour, as interesting but unexciting as it was, had indeed taken up a fair amount of time. He had, however, gotten a little better at spotting places where modernizing the building had blocked off one thing or another, and would likely make an amazing hiding place or dead drop for supplies. It was an entertaining mental exercise, if nothing else. He's not kept waiting much longer, and Baroness Tyr emerges. She's clearly trying to dress up, as her bright and poofy pink dress is the starkest contrast to his outfit imaginable. The closest thing to a shared color is the white socks he's wearing and the sheer prominence of white on her gown. She looks more fitted to an opulent ball than a simple birthday celebration with a +1. Of course, this is a noble's birthday, so the difference may be entirely academic. Well, I do apologize for keeping you waiting. Unfortunately, affairs of state rarely have the patience that another person does. Oh, I understand, for all that many people may think leadership is a simple task of telling others what to do, they could not be more wrong with the sheer numbers of responsibilities and expectations placed upon those in command. Koga replies, and she raises an eyebrow. Is there a reason for the more erudite-sounding explanations? She asks. I'm a little nervous, so I'm attempting to be clear. Koga answers. And what would a sorcerer, solitaire, and what was that version called? A shinobi? Yes. What would a sorceress shinobi soldier have to fear from a birthday celebration? Combat-wise? Very little. But I'm not going into combat now, am I? He asks before thanking Almirchaz for returning his geta to him. No, you're not. Although, no, that would probably not happen. What would probably not happen? Koga asks. Formal duels are often part of Apuk celebrations. Being seen with a war sword is often considered an open invitation to duel, but that is not a war's word, nor a war knife. Tyr notes. No, they're not, but perhaps there will be some entertainment if someone insists upon it. Oh, stop. Someone would have to be extremely intoxicated to even, oh dear, what's the human saying? Did I jinx it? I believe you have. Now I think we should go. It's clear that entertainment awaits. Koga says with an impish smile. You're very playful for such a dangerous man. Which just increases the danger, I'm sure.